Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Monday, April 28th, 2025. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free through the tireless efforts of Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the two words that say Start Here in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of the book contains a narrative description and explanation of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet, and it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 20 years now to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional experience I have into part of the infallible guidance system that each and every one of us has been given. You can also download the actual worksheet process itself. It's a simple PDF file. Click the link, download it, print it off, copy it as often as you'd like, and use it over and over again, absolutely free. You can also download from that web page a host of audio files of shows just like this one, where people have been stepped through that worksheet process. And if you choose to listen to them, they can serve as a powerful tutorial for you to help you get maximum benefit from these tools in the shortest amount of time possible. You can also go to your App Store and type in the three words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. If you choose to do that before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you tap on that, it will let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet. It contains an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and it contains a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. We hope people do all of that soon and often, primarily because it tends to improve the quality of people's lives the more they actively apply these tools in their lives, and secondarily because it tends to prompt comments, questions, answers, and testimonials if you have any of those to share with us. We'd appreciate you doing so. You can email me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org. or you can email Jeanie at jeanie@whyagain.org. That's whyagain.org. And if we get a question or a comment from you or testimonial, we'll address it on the internet show, and then as time allows, send you a notification about what day and time that occurred so you can listen back to the archives for your feedback or your input. And we greatly appreciate whenever anybody does that, because it makes it infinitely easier for us to live into our intention with this work. The intention we have with this work is to be of service, and that's just boatloads easier to do when we know how these things are landing for you. So if you're listening to us at live.needle.com/mindshiftersradio, we're glad you're here and choosing to spend time with us. However, from that position, you're not able to access the app and type in a comment or talk to us voice to voice. So if you'd like to do that, please go to your App Store and type in the three words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. And if you do that before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you tap on that, it will let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet. It contains an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and it contains a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. So we have plenty of time today for comments, questions, answers, testimonials, updates. One of the things we've been doing is reading from the book A Walk in the Physical by Christian Sundberg, and that reading with commentary has been going for a while now, and while occasionally there are callers that give feedback, it's led to several monologues of reading with commentary, and I'm always amazed by the overlap in the teachings of whatever teachers that I'm exposed to and resonate with. Certainly not every teacher that I've been exposed to has been someone I've resonated with, but the tremendous similarities between those teachers that I resonate with, it has always shocked me. It's been my experience that either this is one of the weirdest coincidences on the planet, or most of these people are using the same source materials. And so whatever it is about this process, and me saying that leads me to remind people that I'm always looking for recommendations, introductions to people that you think are really useful spiritual teachers in your life, or somebody who has a perspective that's different, compatible with, but different from the teachers that we've been bringing to the air in Mindshifters Radio for 14 years. I have this other activity that I donate my time to. It's the Journey's Dream hosted podcast titled On Your Mind. And I am always looking for recommendations and introductions and or books you've read that really lit the fire for you or helped you in some way, or podcasts that you've listened to that you have found are extraordinarily useful. So please keep that in mind as you're going through your week. I am always open to those kinds of suggestions, either people I can interview and have them participate in the Mindshifters radio show during this hour, during the weekday, or people that I can interview for the On Your Mind podcast hosted by Journey's Dream. And without anybody raising a hand or typing a comment in, I'm going to return to reading from the category, the group of themes, the group of essays themed Challenge as a Gift. And where we had left off was with an essay titled A Perspective on Suffering. And the next one in that grouping is titled Constraints as Mechanisms for Growth. Constraints as Mechanism for Growth. And Christian writes, a man I admire once said something to the effect that physical incarnation is like holding a pea between two fingers and squeezing down on it to force the pea's core out of the skin. It can't go up, it can't go down, but it's got to go somewhere. So the pea just shoots out in some wild direction. Being physical imposes all sorts of constraints upon us, in accordance with the rule set of this physical reality. We experience those constraints of having to live, to think, and function with a body of flesh. We experience social constraints as we are affected by others. We experience resource constraints and location constraints and time constraints. Yet, all of these constraints are meant to allow us to experience a truer, much more fundamental set of constraints. Our inner constraints. The feelings and thoughts that arise in response to our physical constraints cause us to enter into a complex jungle of seemingly forced self-discovery. The world may seem to take our money. We feel powerless. The world may seem to thwart our relationships. We feel lonely. The world may seem to bring disease to our body. We feel pain. We typically perceive these conditions as negative. And yet, hidden in them is the very meaning and power of the physical experience, for they allow us the opportunity to actually better our lasting selves, our true self, our soul, you might say. In the near-death experience of a woman named Amy Call, C-A-L-L, she recounts that a wise being who had mastered humility was gathered among many spirits who would also benefit from learning it. He telepathically said to her something to the effect of, quote, "All I can do is plant a seed of interest for them to learn it for themselves. Without a physical body, they cannot grow in that way. They need the contrast of the physical experience to learn it." Close quotes. Let we who have bodies take a fresh look at the constraints in our lives. Every pain, every challenge, every quandary holds a bountiful treasure. If we are willing to fearlessly venture inward to discover what it is about ourselves that is being challenged by any given experience. You are powerful enough to seek out your negative self-perceptions and meet them. You are resilient enough to seek out your pains and feel them. You are loving enough to seek out your demons and hug them. You are brave enough to seek out your fears and sit with them. For the power of that inward journey is great, and one of the primary reasons you have come to this place of apparent limitations is to have such a journey and use it for all it can be. So that essay just screams to me of Guy Finley's message. In almost every talk Guy Finley has, he talks about how there's this irritable, angry person inside of us that comes up out of nowhere, seemingly instantaneously out of nowhere, whenever we're confronted with something we don't prefer. And he says, the essence of the reason for being here is to learn and grow from exposing the negativity that comes up in us, from doing basically what this essay talks about. So I'm going to read it again, only this time I'll feel free to interrupt myself and point out to you where I feel the arrows point towards Guy Finley's talks. In the first paragraph, we talked about, the man he admires who talks about physical incarnation is like holding a pea between your thumb and index finger and squeezing it until it pops out of its skin, going off in some wild direction. Well, this dynamic that Guy Finley talks about, this mechanical level of mind that just keeps churning away, keeps doing whatever it automatically does until the time that it wakes up and realizes that it is the source of its pain, not the solution to it. So we have the experience of being squeezed by time constraints and demands from people and physical restrictions. And yet the negativity that arises within us, we might say in response to that pressure, doesn't need to be there. It's something that is fighting against the flow of life and all that is, and we grow as we recognize that and release it. Because the lessons we need to learn in life ride into our lives on the back of the events we don't want. And if we reject the events, we lose the lesson. Here Christian writes, being physical imposes all kinds of restraints on us in accordance with whatever the rule set is of our physical reality. We experience the constraints of having to live. We got to keep the body alive. We got to stay healthy. We have to think. We have to function with this body of flesh. We experience social constraints because we feel like we have to please others. We experience resource restraints and location restraints and time constraints because we're operating in the physical world. And yet all of these constraints were meant to allow us to experience the inner constraints. That's what Guy Finley talks about. My resistance is completely internal, it's unique to me, and is created out of my own thoughts. And all I'm doing there is paraphrasing a line that Dr. Michael Ryce had on one of his earlier worksheets, only the full statement was, my reality is strictly internal, is unique to me, and created out of my own thoughts. I'm just modifying it simply a little bit here to say my constraints, my resistance, my negativity is unique to me. It's completely internal, and it's created out of my own thoughts. I don't need to be negative. I don't need to fight against the flow of life. I can learn to just experience it as it arises and add whichever energies or actions or words to it that I might see as beneficial, that would be extending creation. So Christian writes, the feelings and thoughts that arise in response to our physical constraints cause us to enter into this jungle of seemingly forced self-discovery. So if the world takes our money, we generate a feeling of being powerless. The Way of Mastery says, how about if you could have this bliss state, this wide open, joyful, happy acceptance of the flow of life, even when the bank account gets emptied by a scammer, or even when the walls of the building you're sitting in crumble around you. So the wisdom in the Way of Mastery is we don't need to create the feeling of being powerless or the feeling of being weak, the feeling of being threatened, the feeling of being lonely, the feeling of suffering on top of our pain, and yet we create those responses by how we choose to interpret the flow of life and label it. Christian writes, we typically perceive all these conditions as negative, and yet hidden in them is the very meaning and power of the physical experience, for they allow us the opportunity to actually better ourselves, our lasting self. And this is what Guy Finley says. Every event that comes at you in life is coming for you. It's not happening to you as a punishment. Fear of it, resistance to it, stops you from learning the lesson, stops you from seeing the truth, that you're just in the flow of life, and it is a miracle, and you are a miracle, and you can add lovingly to whatever crosses your path, whatever unfolds in, through, as, and around you in this flow of life. So the idea is, and Christian has talked about this in other parts of the book, but the idea is being in the non-physical, people cannot have the experience, they can't learn of what it's like to have human emotions, to have human challenges, to grow from this set of constraints. They can't have an experience of humility because they're in the non-physical as a consciousness feeling the truth that they're connected with all things and all people in all times. So they don't feel tiny and small and threatened and helpless and hurt. So he talks about a woman named Amy Call, C-A-L-L, who recounts that in her near-death experience, she had an interaction with a wise being who had mastered humility. And other beings were telepathically asking, how did you do that? What is that? It's so wonderful to feel that energy in you. How did you get that? How can I get that? And this entity said, communicated, didn't say, didn't have a mouth, doesn't have words, but communicated something to the effect of, quote, all I can do is plant a seed of interest for them to learn it for themselves without a physical body. They can't grow in that way. They need the contrast of the physical experience to learn it. If Guy Finley were weaving this into his talk, he would say, all we can do is live our lives and experience these things that we say we don't want, and open to the revelation that they bring us about what's negative and angry and tight and condensed and controlling within us that doesn't belong there. And as we release it, as we breathe through it, as we soften, we learn more about ourselves, and we have a more wide open, fluid experience of life. Christian goes on and writes, let us who have bodies take a fresh look at the constraints in our lives. Let us remember that every pain, every challenge, every quandary holds a bountiful treasure. Guy Finley, the lessons you need to learn in life ride into your life on the back of the events you don't want. Every pain, every challenge, every quandary holds a bountiful treasure. If we're willing to fearlessly venture inward and explore, what is this negativity in me? Where is it coming from? What interpretation did I have to choose and place on this neutral event to feel this pain, this fear, this quandary, this challenge? And as I'm willing to turn inside and discover what it is about me that is being challenged by any given experience, I learn more about myself. I learn more about that which is keeping me from knowing and loving life more fully in the moment. The last paragraph here from Christian reads, you are powerful enough to seek out your negative self-perceptions and meet them. Right? Think about this. Great wisdom tells us who you are, your true nature, has never been born and will never die. It's consciousness, it's awareness. It's connected to the mind of the Creator. It's connected to all minds. All minds are joined. Your true nature can't be chipped, dented, rusted, faded, or broken in any way. And you are powerful enough to seek out your negative perceptions and meet them. You are resilient enough to seek out your pains and feel them fully. You are loving enough to seek out your demons and hug them. You're brave enough to seek out your fears and sit with them fully. For the power of that inward journey is great, and it is one of the primary reasons you've come to this place of these apparent limitations, just so you can have a journey like this and use it for all it can be. Use it as the light shining on the hidden places of your awareness. Use it as the tool for revelation of what you're carrying around in you that no longer needs to be with you. So we have 3 more essays in the grouping of the theme titled Challenge as a Gift. And the next essay in that grouping is titled Fear as a Sign of Potential Expansion. And Christian writes, fear is a reflection of the space in, quote, experience space, close quotes, that beingness is expanding into. It reflects a, quote, distance, close quotes, that has not yet been experientially integrated. Fear is a sign that, quote, that which is, close quotes, is engaged in something. It's engaged in a form or perception that challenges it and that is giving it room within itself to expand into. So without this friction, without this constraint, without this stretching, growth doesn't happen. Christian goes on. In part, our physical reality is what happens when unharmable consciousness decides to create a challenge for the purposes of actual experiential growth. Fear is not something that was created. It is simply what happens when existing consciousness engages a new constraint set that it is not yet optimally developed to handle, and it buys into perspectives that are not in alignment with its true nature. So it's like a feedback system. Fear probably does not exist in the non-physical realm because there's no need for it. There's no mechanism that it can serve in the realm of the non-physical where all is safe and all is connected and all is blissful. So he goes on and writes, fear is only possible when the spirit is engaged in challenge, which means it's working with a yet unintegrated experience. That is, fear is only possible when the spirit is engaging sense data or form that it does not yet recognize for what it truly is, or when spirit is buying into a belief that is not in alignment with the capital T truth. Fear is a growing pain that happens when, quote, that which already is, close quotes, engages in a real process of perspective integration. So you as consciousness, all that is, decide to engage in a process that changes your perspective to an angle you've never had before, to a set of experiences you've never had before. And the challenge for growth is that you integrate that you expand your experience base and become even more, so that what was new and unknown and could be used to generate fear becomes integrated, common, safe, gentle. In that sense, fear ultimately serves love's purpose of joy and expansion because it's like the alarm system that lets you know there's something within your process of thought that is not accurate, that is holding on to things it doesn't need to hold on to. It's created something unlike its true nature just for the experience that can get generated. He writes, ultimately, there's nothing at all to fear. Fear is completely subservient to the greater and perfectly enduring truth of love. When the, quote, game, close quotes, of growth and expansion is won, or you've departed from it, there can be no fear. Fear is an illusion. Fear is an artifact of what they call, quote, perceived distance, close quotes. The perceived distance from what? From true love, from the awareness of your unity with all, and where the space doesn't exist the way we experience it in the physical realm. In that sense, your home, your true nature, is in a place where distance cannot occur. Fear is not native to the soul, for our native being is one of total power, total freedom, and total love. And in the brightness of that light, every shadow of fear is completely. So please remember, as we reach the halfway mark of our first hour together, that I welcome comments and questions. And as I say that, I turn on the microphone for Susan Bingham.
Hello, Dr. Tim. How dare you?
Hello, hello.
How dare you find a reading that is so perfectly fitted to probably what a lot of people are going through, but certainly I am with this sentence completion assignment you gave, which is just non-stop revelations in both directions, mostly revulsion, but also hope. But my question here is, if we are perfect and unharmable, and if we have experienced that when we didn't have a body, why would we agree to take this on when we don't? And
why would we agree to take this on when what? I lost you. Are you still there?
I'm still here, but I got a phone call and hung up, and I'll just text the person that I will not available at the moment. Sorry.
Quite all right.
Yeah, I know you have said you should shut things off. I've never had a phone call during it, and I see what you mean. It totally takes over what's happening.
So your question is, why would we come out of a bliss state to one where we can experience pain, fear, and sadness, etc.?
Yeah, I know that's been answered, but I forget what he said.
Well, but the essence of it is, regardless of the teaching, the essence of it is because we can, right? Why do they climb the mountain? Because it's there. And if you have this awareness that you're totally safe and totally free, and you can choose to, come into the realm of physical being or not, it's up to you, then it's like play for the soul. It doesn't hold the same serious level of disruption that we experience here in the physical. Remember, even to the level of, if you're going to buy into this story that Christian Sundberg has, he had this experience in the non-physical, and he crafted a life that would help him achieve the mastery of certain levels of fear that he needed or he wanted to master. And he started, becoming aware of the fetus in the mother's womb and got terrified and decided, I'm not going.
Yeah.
Right?
I think I would have done the same thing if I'd been conscious enough to know.
Well, but the point is, you already went through that and you decided to come where you are. If you're buying into this level of thought,
Mm-hmm.
the only thing that makes sense with it is no matter how frustrated you are now, no matter how much you want out now, at a certain point, you agreed to this.
Mm-hmm.
And you agreed to it because it can bring you things that you can't get any other way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if I decided I was going to, this is a very poignant real life situation for me. I was a very happy person as in my 20s, and I lived in Northern California, and I had that bachelor's in psychology, and I was working at a juvenile hall, and I was young and healthy and strong, and everything was going great. I lived in a place where I could get in my car and go backpack and not see another person for days if I wanted to, and beautiful territory. But I thought, well, these people in the juvenile hall, these families, they're just so needy. They have intense needs that I'm not really educated to be able to help them with. I should go back and get a doctorate. Well, if I had any idea, the turbulence, that it would take 9 3/4 years, that I would spend money that I never recovered, that I would be lied to and embarrassed and humiliated, and that I would have my student loans revoked, and if I had any idea I never would have done it. But I thought, well, let's expand, let's grow. I've already done the bachelor's thing, and I've worked in the field for a few years with a bachelor's degree, and so what would happen if? Well, imagine that on a broader scale. Imagine that you're in this bliss state and everything is safe. Nothing gets challenged. You're comfortable.
Slash bored.
And, well, no, not necessarily bored, but you just have this other... I mean, I wasn't bored. I was enjoying my life. But I thought, what if?
Yeah.
What if something new? What if, I can expand my potential and my ability to help others? So what if that's all that's happened and that you already agreed to that when you were in the non-physical coming into the physical?
Yeah, that's a good example. I think of having kids too, although the rewards of having kids always outweigh whatever terrible thing might be happening. But I have asked myself, especially when the external world is so difficult, problematic, I say, should I have had kids?
Well, listen, let's say it this way. Especially when your interpretation of the external world is that it is so difficult.
True.
Right? I mean, like, there are some people that just, oh, well, ho-hum, no big deal, and they seemingly breeze through life. There are others who they throw a tantrum if the traffic isn't flowing at the rate they think it should.
Yeah.
So each and every one of us is choosing an interpretation for what is, or what we believe is happening through our this process that we talk about of perception, where we recombine the data points that hit our senses and we create a picture and a meaning from it. But the whole point of these deeper teachings is it doesn't have to be that hard. And when we interpret it as hard, there's a gift in there. The next essay in this list is titled "Hardship is a Gift." So what's happening there is it's saying, if I interpret something in the flow of life as being a hardship, there's a gift in there for me. It's like Guy Finley saying that the lessons I need to learn in life ride into my life on the back of the events I don't want.
Totally. Yeah.
But the events I want, the fun ones, the ones I've had before, I've had chocolate ice cream before, I can't wait to have it again, that stuff is just it's like candy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to grow from that. I'm not going to expand. My waistline might expand a little bit if I keep eating chocolate ice cream, but as a consciousness, as a loving soul, I'm not going to expand because I ate more chocolate ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
But when I interpret something as being bad or wrong, and I generate a way to deal with that in a way that's more loving than the last time, I grow. I expand.
Mm-hmm. I do understand. It's amazing how, on one level, I guess we choose the challenge that is too much. We choose the one that is totally repulsive.
And it's only that way because of the way we're labeling it. And eventually, as we get through it, and we look at it in the rearview mirror, we see it very differently. Or we see it as the only way we could have gotten the growth, the joy, the connection, the experience, whatever you want to call it, that we most value. But it's all about the interpretation I give it, right? The interpretation I create and place on it that creates it, my experience of a thing.
God, that is so true. The thing we value the most. Yeah. Oh my God, that's great. Sorry, I'm having my mind blown.
Well, was there anything about what, without even talking about any of the shameful or gory details, or is there something about the process that you can share with people that might encourage them to use a targeted journaling like the Mind Shifter, or use a sentence completion because of what it can bring to you that you can't get in another way?
Well, you just said it right then, the thing you value the most. I have not been able to attain that except in pockets where I feel or interpret that I'm safe. And I would like to just let that go because you used the word unharmable. In our basic nature, we are not.
We're totally safe.
We're totally safe. If I really operate from that, I could go places I've never dared to go. I'll give an example. It's a weird example. 5 kids in my family. My oldest sister, very passionate, emotional, music-loving person. Second sister, who had a harsh side and brought that out more than all her other parts of herself because that was the culture of our family. We didn't have a full spectrum of emotions.
The harsh side was...
We could be mad or we could be giddily happy. Mad and happy or neutral and, nothing. Those were safe, but to have deeply loving feelings, to express sorrow openly, stuff like that was impossible. And yet my second sister seemed to be immune to those restraints. She was emotional, open, loving, and as a result, I would squirm on her behalf with embarrassment. And my mother would. And it was not, she was doing things that were not supposed to be done. She seemed not to have that kind of constraint. And my mother used to say, my mother was like that too. How did she get that? As if my mother was both in awe and horrified. And I bought the whole judgment hook, line, and sinker and joined my mother. So that's just one thing. My sister didn't somehow, my sister's like a free spirit. She's 88 years old now. And she's the most fragile of us all physically. And yet here she's made it to 88 and is nothing but a ball of affection and love and affirmation. And sometimes I squirm because she says, I love you so much, Sue. And I think, oh, give me a break. I don't know how to handle that. Why? I want that so much. What is this? I think the great thing about having a mind shifter like that is you are brought instantly nose to nose with your most pressing issue in life, and you don't get to look away. If you stick with the journal writing, you're bringing your nose back to the wall over and over and over again. And I'm hoping, and this is another question, I'm hoping, because I can't imagine going through that, having a door in that wall. I'm hoping that there are benefits in being nose to nose and not knowing the possibility of anything else but being nose to nose. Somehow something's going to give, and it won't be me that allows it to give.
Yeah, it's not you doing it, right? It's you just witnessing at that level. If
somebody else is going to do it for me in the end. I still can't imagine achieving what I'm aiming to achieve. So, I can't really wholeheartedly recommend the guided journaling.
But it's stirring stuff up for you.
It sure is. So be brave, anybody who's listening. If you really want to, it's like choosing to be born in a body, just like what he says, Sundberg.
Yeah, it's like Guy Finley says that we all have wings that only open in midair.
Oh, boy.
You've got to be willing to take the leap, or you never learn that you can fly.
Oh, my God, that's gorgeous. Well, I'm still hanging on to a thread on the cliff. So, anyway. But it amazes me that Sundberg is talking about this right now, that this essay is right up there. It's like you're making us all keep our nose to the wall right now.
Well, so do you want to hear the next essay in the list, titled
Sure.
Hardship is a Gift?
More of the same, sure.
Yep, more of the same. Well, it's in the same theme, right? There's two more in this theme of, challenge as a gift.
Yeah, sure.
So he writes, challenge is a gift. When the individual is challenged by circumstance, the opportunity for the spirit to apply itself and expand through that experience is a gift. It is not that hardship is good, but rather it is a neutral, even if painful, it's a neutral catalyst that can be useful. The ego may reject this. The ego may see hardship as simply terrible and negative. However, nothing terrible and negative arises that spirit cannot ultimately use. There is nothing greater than, quote, all that is, close quotes. Nothing can arise within all that is not of meaning. Even hardship, and often especially hardship, ultimately has great value in the churning processes of manifest creation, which ultimately serve the expansion of everlasting joy.
Whoa.
And when I read that, something in my brain was saying, I've pushed against this and I've seen the benefit of it a number of times over the years, but a lot of times in therapy, people assume unless you're an alcoholic, you can't help an alcoholic. Unless your child has died while you're still alive and vibrant, you can't help somebody whose child has died, et cetera, that you had to have the exact same experience. And I don't necessarily believe that exact same experience has to be there, although there is a tremendous benefit from connecting with people who've been through at least what you believe is the same thing. And yet, for somebody who's never had hardship of any kind, for someone who's never felt challenged in a certain way, it's not really possible for you to connect with somebody. I'm going to mute you, Sue. It's unless you've had some kinds of challenges, unless you felt that you weren't enough and that life is very, very pressing, it's very difficult for you to connect with somebody else who is feeling that. So it may not be that you need exactly the same life experience, but you do need to be growing and expanding and running into things that challenge you so that you get the revelation about what you're carrying that's negative, that's not your true self, that you don't need to carry. So to finish that essay, he writes, "To the immortal and all-powerful Spirit, challenge is a precious opportunity to bring virtue to bear. It's an opportunity to expand and actualize the depth of one's own love and light in a real, in a lasting way. We are spirit first and human second. The challenges of the secondary human experience are often worth, you might challenge that, but they're often worth the temporary price to the bold spirit who knows the truth of immortality and wishes to expand itself and expand the joy of capital ALL, all, expand that joy forever. In what ways is the world pushing you, whether it's painfully or not, to let go of your fear and ego? In what ways is the world compelling you to embrace your joy, to live your truth and share your love? What is the hardship of your life teaching you? What is the pain of your story saying? If you listen deeply beneath all the labels, your deeper spirit is always there, ready to help you utilize this current experience and circumstance for lasting purposes that may far exceed what your human mind can even imagine. So what if you're not just a physical body? What if you are a spiritual being having a physical experience and there's so much more to you and your consciousness and your awareness and the way you are interacting with the energies of life and creation, so much more than you could possibly know? What if? That's for us to just play with as a thought experiment. And especially when something arises in my life that I don't prefer. What can I do to shift the experience I have of an event? Change the way I'm interpreting it. Change the meaning I'm giving. Remind myself that the Course in Miracles says, I give this moment all the meaning it has for me. So when I choose an interpretation of and a response to a life event that leaves me feeling tight or tense or angry or hurt or pained, Diederik Wolzak would say, choose again. Choose it different and spin the kaleidoscopic wheel of interpretation until it lands on something at least neutral, if not potentially positive. And apply that interpretation to your experience in the moment and watch how your experience changes. That's our invitation. And each of us has to decide, will we accept that invitation? The last essay in this list is titled Being Comfortable with Uncertainty. And we've read this one before. It begins with a quote from Eckhart Tolle that says, "Become at ease with the state of not knowing." When you do that, this takes you beyond mind, because mind is always trying to conclude and interpret. It is afraid of not knowing. So, when you can be at ease with not knowing, in that moment you've already gone beyond the mind. A deeper knowing that is non-conceptual then arises out of that state. Be in that state of not knowing, the not knowing mind. This is a deep Eastern wisdom that comes to us. The Way of Mastery calls it this divine ignorance, understanding and expressing and stepping into the experience of how little we know. Remember the exercise we've talked about that Way of Mastery recommends? You just, wherever you are in the middle of the day, take a few minutes and pick up an object that's around you. And I just picked up a thing that I think is basically made of plastic, but it's for cleaning the lenses on my eyeglasses. And the exercise says, pick up this thing and hold it and understand, I don't know even what it's made of. And even if I have a name for the materials I think it's made of, I don't know where they came from, where they were sourced. I don't know who had the first idea to use that source, that chemical process to create what I'm calling here plastic. I don't know. I'm going to use it to clean the lenses on my eyeglasses. I don't know who was the first human being that decided to use eyeglasses. How did that arise? Where did the science of understanding light and refraction and focusing, where did that come from? I have no idea. So if I step into that space of what Way of Mastery invites us into, and it calls divine ignorance, then all kinds of awareness open up to me, because now I'm not focusing my conscious on the conscious logical thought process and banging into all these walls of things I don't know. I'm acknowledging I'm like a babe in the woods, and I'm asking to be taught by my life, by an experience of life in the moment, asking to be shown. I often quite literally just ask to be shown how to be a blessing to myself and others in this moment, which is frequently not obvious to me. And I don't wait around for some kind of a logical understanding then before I take action. I just ask to be shown, and then I take action. Then I just try and stay as present as possible in the moment and breathe and soften and step into life. There's a couple comments from people that don't show up, but I'm reading them now. Susan says that, or Sally says that she loves Susan's questions and comments. I rarely experience negativity on the road, but driving here, the guy behind me on a little side street gave me the finger, as seen in my mirror. Immediately I felt bad, sure I'd done something wrong. All I did was drive slightly under the limit. The amazing thing is how easily I felt slimed. It's gone now, but we do get to wrestle with life on life's terms. Yes, indeed. Sally writes, I'm certainly being compelled to greater truth and joy today. Joy is literally bursting through me. Easter pain was so great I could nearly breathe through it. Oldest studs I've known since I was 3 to 5 years old. Amazing shifts. Old stuff feels huge and deadly familiar when it comes up. Yes, it does, and that's our challenge, is to to trust these deeper teachings that say you can't be hurt in your true nature. So thank you all for being here. I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of the stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. And hopefully Michael and Jeanie will start the second hour soon.